The footsteps echoed through the empty corridors of New Geneva Station, each step a reminder that humanity was still moving, still breathing, still running. Commander Elena Vasquez pressed her hand against the cold metal wall, feeling the subtle vibration that indicated the station's massive engines were still operational. Beyond the reinforced windows, Earth hung in the void like a blue marble wrapped in an unnatural silence. It had been 3 years since the quieting began. Marcus Rivera, the station's chief engineer, approached with his usual hurried gait. His face bore the weathered look of someone who had aged a decade in the span of those 3 terrible years. "Commander, we're picking up another signal from the surface," he reported, his voice barely above a whisper. Even in space, they had learned to speak softly. Elena nodded grimly. The signals were always the same, brief, desperate transmissions from isolated pockets of survivors, followed by an abrupt, terrifying silence. She had stopped counting how many settlements they had lost contact with after the 50th one went dark. The species that had arrived without warning had no visible form, no ships that human instruments could detect. They were sound itself, living acoustics that fed on vibration, on noise, on the very essence of communication that made civilization possible. The first attacks had targeted major cities, drawn by the cacophony of millions of voices, car engines, construction sites, and the constant hum of modern life. Within weeks, the creatures had consumed every sound on Earth's surface. Not destroyed, consumed. They turned audio waves into sustenance, leaving behind a world wrapped in absolute, suffocating quiet. "What's our current heading?" Elena asked Marcus, though she already knew the answer. "Still on course for Kepler 442b, he replied. "The colony ships launched 6 months ago should have reached the system by now. If we maintain current speed, we'll arrive in 18 months. Elena walked to the observation deck, where other survivors gathered daily to stare at their dying homeworld. Children who had been born on the station had never heard birds singing or waves crashing against a shore. They communicated through hand signals and written notes, having learned that even the smallest sound could attract the creatures if they ever returned to Earth. Lieutenant James Potter, barely 25 but carrying the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders, joined Elena at the window. He handed her a tablet displaying the latest sensor readings. The surface showed no signs of the sound-eating entities, but Elena knew better than to trust that apparent emptiness. The creatures moved in ways that defied human understanding, existing in frequencies that stretched beyond conventional detection. "Do you think they followed the other ships?" Potter signed to her in the hand language they had all learned. Elena considered the question that haunted every survivor. The colony ships that had escaped during the initial chaos carried 50,000 humans each, the largest evacuation in human history. But they had been forced to launch with minimal shielding, limited supplies, and no certainty that they wouldn't carry the creatures with them to other worlds. Through the porthole, Earth continued its silent rotation. Cities that once blazed with light now stood dark and empty. Forests grew wild without the sound of chainsaws or human voices. Ocean waves crashed soundlessly against abandoned shores. The creatures had accomplished what no human conflict, natural disaster, or cosmic event had ever managed. They had made Earth completely, utterly quiet. And in that silence, humanity had learned the true value of noise, of conversation, of the simple joy found in laughter and song. New Geneva Station shuddered slightly as it adjusted course toward their distant destination. In the cargo holds, sealed containers held recordings of every sound humanity could preserve, symphonies, children's laughter, thunderstorms, and bustling city streets. They were acoustic seeds, waiting to bloom again on a world where sound could exist without being devoured. Elena pressed her palm against the cold window one final time. Behind them, Earth faded into the cosmic darkness, still silent, still running from the creatures that had claimed it. But ahead lay hope, distant worlds where humanity's voice might echo once again across alien skies, where children could sing without fear, and where the last species would finally stop running and start rebuilding the symphony of civilization.